Why do I keep forgetting to put that down? Hey guys! What up? My name is Jessica. You can follow me on Twitter at SheKnowsArsenal. And this is our instant match reaction to Arsenal 1, Norwich 0. You guys see? Norwich. Got it. So, we won the game. We got a goal, and we got a win. So, that's a good thing, isn't it? But obviously, we're going to get into the nitty gritty today. We will talk more about probably, I don't know. It's one of those where you want to focus on the positives, and there were a lot of positives today, but there were also some negatives, and we have to address those as well. Even though you kind of take the win and just run away. Ultimately, Norwich is probably one of the lesser teams in the league, and we're playing at home. And for large spells of that game, I don't think that we could say that we look like the home team. They looked really comfortable and really confident against us at home, and it wasn't until we made some key substitutions that we look like the team that I think we expected to see. So that's a little bit worrying. But ultimately, there was a debut in there that I thought went really well. I think Ramsdale may have, showed some people why he's been brought in. There's some things that he did today that I don't think you could have asked Leno to do and got the same results. I also think just Odegaard, for me, I know that he's one of those players where I feel like he might be a little bit more peripheral than we want him to be. He's kind of one of those silent players. He's not as robust and in your face as ESR. But his performance today and the leadership that he had on the pitch vocally, but also with what he was doing, he was actually leading by example. I thought that was a good sign, for the future. And ultimately, I think in another time, in another universe, maybe a couple weeks ago, we played Norwich. We don't get our goal early, and we capitulate, and we let them score. We let them get into the game. So I do think there's positives, there are negatives. We'll talk about all of that. We'll talk our winners. We'll talk our losers. We're also going to do a new section at the beginning of the show that I just thought of randomly when I was doing my makeup, is we're going to talk about what have we learned or what has been confirmed. So we'll talk about what we've learned for today, like something that you didn't really think of before, but you're like, oh, learned that today, or something that's been confirmed to you. At this point, you know for sure that this is what it is, and you're willing to put your stamp of confirmed on there and throw it away. So that's going to be our new section. And obviously at the end of the show, we'll let you guys have your say. We'll take a couple of calls, get in the chat box, let us know what you guys think. Who's your man of the match? What have you learned? What's been confirmed? All of that. There's about 80 of you guys watching right now, and I'll go ahead and bring in George now. Hey, George.
Hello.
Hey. So we got 80 people watching right now. Tons of chat. I see a lot of happy, some upset, some of everything, which I think is pretty fair. But I'll let you go ahead and go first with what have you learned anything new today about this team, or has something been confirmed to you?
I mean, I think a couple things were definitely confirmed to me in terms of what I've felt. I'll start there because I think learning was a little bit tough today, I think, because you saw the bookends of our season, really, for me. First thing that was confirmed was Ramsdale. I tried to tell everybody about his distribution. This is huge to us. You could immediately see the press was non-existent, really, with Ramsdale. We were able to fire into Lukonga. He was able to calm the nerves. I don't think we get much more of a difference from the Brentford game than this if we had Leno in the goal. So I think that's the first thing that's a little bit confirmed. Second thing is probably, Lukonga, who I love as a player, but I think we can really start to see some of the positioning issues that I was trying to highlight in terms of off the ball. I think what's really clear is we've got a really special player on it, but that's fine. He's just raw off it. And I think between him and Ainsley at the pivot, we look at the difference when you introduce a Thomas Partey in there. This idea of a spine and the idea that we actually did well in the game really came in those substitutions, ESR, Partey. And, this is kind of what I was looking for, where if you see the difference when Partey fires in, what, Jess, the first 2 minutes he walks in, fires it into Bukayo, who then gets a ball, and we have a 2-on-1 immediately. This is what you miss with Ainsley, Lukonga, El Neni. Granite to a certain extent, just pure quality in terms of at the 62-minute mark to kind of the end of the game, we took control. I think maybe if I had to say something that we maybe learned, I think what we learned is that um, it's not necessarily the striker responsible for creating chances. I think when you look at the middle of the game, we ended the game on 2.7 xg, 30 shots, only 6 on target. From a broad view, people would say that we dominated, but that wasn't the case of the game, right? I would say probably from the 0 minute mark to the 30th, we did well, but then Norwich took over from the 30th until maybe our substitutions at the 62, and then we went on. I think what you learned is that the striker isn't responsible for necessarily the goals. We saw an uptick in that chance creation once that midfield came in. And maybe that's a little bit of confirmation bias. I think we knew with a good spine we would see that. But I think that was really evident in this game. It's really a bookend. And also Tomiyasu, he looks a lot more ready than people may think. I think me and you were both pretty high on him. But in terms of what he offered aerially as well, I knew that he was an aerial monster from the stats, but just how he dealt with a lot of the long balls, it can be nerve wracking. The kid's only had, what, 2 sessions since he's come? He had a flight, he was taken off because of cramps. So, yeah, I was just very much a case of Tommy, good debut of a learning opportunity. I really liked how the striker, Oba, came deep. He linked play a lot more than he has in recent times. And I think our chance creation went up just with the midfield. So those are a couple things that I learned, and maybe the confirmed stuff is probably Ramsdale's distribution and the effect of our spine just overall on the team.
Yeah, for sure. I think those are all really fair points, and I do agree that it's difficult to. I think we've lost 3 games, in terms of being able to kind of ease our way into the season a little bit, and then we can kind of learn a little bit more. This was really feels like our first game of the season. And I know from obviously the season started, before, but this feels like our first game. So I haven't really
Yeah.
learned a lot, because this just looks like, okay, we just threw these players out here, not threw them out here, but we still need to see a little bit more. But for me, what's been confirmed, well, actually, I did learn one thing today, and it's probably not something that you'll feel like you learned because you've always felt this way. But I learned today that Aubameyang is 100% committed to whatever, whether it's just himself getting back into form, Arsenal, whatever. I don't really care what his wanting for being good is, because that I don't care about that really. For me, I thought that his performance was noticeably keyed in. Like, he was pressing, he was in it. You could just tell he was tracking runners. His body language was what I expect from Aubameyang, and that's a really good sign for us moving forward. Today, all I saw was 8, 9 players trying to create for Aubameyang, and that's not sustainable for us in terms of creating attacks and scoring goals. We need more than just Aubameyang. There was a moment where Aubameyang, I know this is what Keenan's talking about here, where he takes the ball from almost halfway and just just like a road
Yeah, the
runner,
far
just
run on the
yeah,
side.
the far run on that side. And I just thought, I was like, so he's not physically declined, which is something that you said before, and he's in it mentally. I thought the way that we play doesn't suit him unless we have a couple of tens behind him and they're moving and creating, and we didn't have that. So what I learned today was that Aubameyang is committed, and he's definitely Aubameyang. We just need to get him more chances. One thing that has been confirmed to me is that we needed another midfielder, and I was already confirmed, but it was in my face today. For me, against Norwich at home, I think you should be able to rest Thomas and still have a really competitive midfield with the technical quality needed. Sambi is young. He's young, you can tell, and it's just it's going to take him some time. He was good, but not great. He had some moments. I think some of that had to do with the partner that he had, but the midfield just didn't have a grip on it. It didn't have a grip on it, and I just can't get back. I can't shake that feeling of well, if Basuma had been there, would we have had an issue today? Probably not, because Sambi could have done the Thomas stuff and Basuma could have done the sweeping up stuff, and we would have been just fine. So it's confirmed to me that at some point in January, I would hope that we would get a midfielder because we're just an injury away from not being able to play our way. Thomas being out means you don't get to play your way. And I can't see Xhaka Sambi, Ainsley Sambi, Ainsley Xhaka having that same effect. Can you?
No, not. I mean, look, I've been screaming about this for so long, and I mean, you as well. Like, we want a different type of midfielder. There's a reason why we want a different type of midfielder. I think this game is the perfect story. Why me and you have wanted a change from Shaka and have wanted a change from that pivot. You go from maybe the 0 to the 60th minute where there's some good play and there's some bad play, but fundamentally we don't do enough to beat the opposition that we should be beating. I think that's the through line if you don't have a Partey in there, if you don't have a Basuma type in there. And I just think for me, you look at that pivot. I was worried when I saw the starting lineup and Partey wasn't in. I was like, oh shit, our prediction, there's no way it's happening. We're going to struggle because Partey's not there. And I didn't see anybody in that midfield, especially with Lukonga, who I feel has some work to do off the ball. I always have. I was worried when I knew Ainsley wouldn't do it. And so I saw a pivot where the back four was actually really quite good too. Like I don't know if people maybe want to say that they learned that, but we're compact again, shock. But they worked really well together. Maybe that could be something that we learned because I felt Tomiyasu covered White very well, where White would step up quite a bit, but Tomiyasu's recovery speed was really, really good in terms of trying to help out the midfield who were struggling to progress. I think Ainsley Lukonga was very slow, pedestrian. People weren't firing the ball into the forwards. And then we had some of the defenders, Gabriel and White trying to push up and really send long balls to Oba, which isn't his game. And then we sit there and we complain, is he getting the shots? So I think it was just a midfield problem. It's the engine room. So it's definitely something that we got to worry about if, we're looking to do something this season. Because like you said, I think Thomas Partey is huge, but we needed somebody else in there. And, I think Granite does better than what this pivot does. I still do. But it doesn't move the needle in terms of what we're saying about upping the progression. It doesn't move the needle about upping those chance creations hugely. So, yeah, it was a tough one for me just to watch because I felt like, oh God, the story's going to come again. I'm going to have to come back and sit here talking about, potentially a loss because I was looking at that midfield and I got scared. Even though that Norwich don't have a lot of space, like we said, in midfield, I just felt like they wouldn't exploit it. And I don't think they did. I don't know what other people's thoughts. I don't think we did for roughly 60 minutes. We had some good play. I think the first 25, 30 minutes, the only good thing was our press. I don't think it was us actually playing through them, which is a problem. I mean, we had a little chat in our group chat, like, what are we doing by halftime? There weren't a lot of chances. Like, what's our chance creation method? I thought the press was, and that was about it. And that was because of our pivot. Our pivot was just too slow. They were doing all the things that we complain about on this channel. We got to really up the speed kind of in our build up. But look, I think from the back, it was really good. I think we got into the second phase excellently. But then from there, to go to the second to the third phase, it was just very, very slow. They were setting, the defense was able to set, and it was back to normal stuff.
100%. When you saw Ramsdale would, and I just felt like it was such a waste, because, and not to bring up like old trauma, but like he reminded me of the type of risk that Emmy would take. Emmy would do that. He would take a little risk, cut the striker and make a really quick pass into the midfielder. And what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to turn and then pass the ball in between the lines to the next man, whether that's Saka or ESR. We didn't have ESR out there, and that might have been a part of it. But when Sambi and Ainsley would get the ball, they were just too slow, like to do that next pass. And it just stopped everything, and it almost made it not worth it to draw Norwich in so much with that really kind of like risky playing out of the back. But Ramsdale had that, and I just feel like you're not going to get that with Leno. You're not going to get that with Leno. He's not going to take those risks, and you have to take some risks, but the reward needs to be the same. And I think our midfield kind of let us down, in that respect.
You know what it is, just for me, just really quick, it's decisiveness. Like I did
Hmm.
talk to people about Ramsdale where look, he's got a really great passing range. He does. I think we saw that, right? Like I don't think that's disputed. But the big thing that he has that's like Emmy is he's quick in his decision making. How many times did you see Pookie press him and he fires it into Lukonga very quickly? That press is gone. We didn't see that against Brentford. When you move to the pivot, Lukonga and Ainsley, they receive the ball. They don't fire it into Aubameyang or Saka quick. They look for other options. And so when Partey comes in at the 62 minute mark, and within a minute or two of him coming on, he fires it into Saka. Does he necessarily receive the ball? We don't know, but he can quickly turn and boom, we have a 2-on-1. These are the small things when you talk about progression, urgency, decisiveness that we really need to speed up, I think. And as long as we don't do that, we're going to be inefficient because we don't have the
Hmm.
quality to get us out of trouble when the block is settled. If that makes sense for people, like we are a developed team, but we really need to speed the progression because if you settle the block, we don't have enough dribblers in the team to really make use of that block. So
Hmm.
how do you do it? You've got to speed the progression, get the ball into more favorable, frequent 1v1s, and then you get basically the XG that happened from the 62-minute mark to the 90th minute. And then we get a game that we all wanted to see from the get go and not from the 60th minute.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about our winners and losers. You guys, again, losers are not like,
I'm going to
oh,
say
they're
needs
fun.
improvement so I
Yeah,
don't
you
get
could
like
say, I'm going to
shocked.
say losers. It's fine to me because I know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, you can say needs improvement. But let's move into that section. You guys can go ahead and let us know in the chat box who is your winner and who's your loser. If you have a couple of those, it's fine, But George, what do you think? Let's start off with the negative
Yeah.
loser.
Um, Somebody that needs improvement is probably going to be, I'd say Lakanga, and I would also say Pepe. Pepe was, and I know the comments are going to get crazy, but if we're really
But
being
he
on
was
Pepe,
poor.
he had such a Pepe game though. So like when you look overall, he had excellent chances, but he lost the ball roughly 20 times. I think it was 24 when I looked at the stats. He had a really poor first touch. But in the end, he ends up having two really great chances that he probably should be doing better. Doesn't make the final action. I mean, me and you were talking offline. What it is with him is he's not poor technically. That's not the thing that we keep doing. He is not got the greatest IQ. When you look at kind of ESR, you look at Saka in those positions, even Odegaard, who I don't think was terribly decisive today as well, but he makes those decisions a lot more than maybe say a Pepe. But he ended up having probably one of the better chances in the match. So he gets in good positions. It's just, I think at 26, I'm really expecting a lot more. I think Lakanga needed a little bit of work too. I really think he needed improvement. And, of course, Ainsley, he doesn't cover himself as glory. And what kills me is the roughly 10, 15 minutes that he had at right back were far better than he had all game in the middle. And I just don't understand why he doesn't see that. So if I really had to choose my loser, I'll be honest, I think it's probably Ainsley for me because I know what I get with Pepe. I know what I get with some of these other players, but Ainsley, that kid just has to realize to maybe listen to the coach. It's really that simple at this point. There's a lot of good things there, but if it's so clear for everyone but you, then I'm sorry, you are the problem in my mind. And he was an issue for us all game today. So yeah, probably Ainsley.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like obvious, like for me, because with Pepe, he's a final action player. He's basically like he's just a finisher. I think one of the things that has been really confusing about him is that because his comps, coming from Lille were a bunch of tricky, kind of on the ball type of things, that was in a different league, that's slower, worse defenders, and these teams are smart enough not to give him space in behind. They're
Yeah.
just better players, and he suffers with his being able to beat people one on one, and then we like to play behind the ball. So when you have players that we want to play behind the ball, you have to have more technical ability and all that. And when I say technical ability, I'm not just talking about like the tricks and stuff, the ability to pass at the right pace, to stop the ball dead, to know when to turn. Like he just doesn't have those things. So for me, like it's just obvious like that he needs to be a final action person, and then when you put ESR there to connect with Odegaard and Bakayo, then you have that triple, that group, that three that you kind of need, and then Pepe can just focus on being in the box and finishing because that's really what he's good at. Like he's really not a playmaker. He's really not a build-up player. Like he's not really that guy. So I think he suffered from that. And Ainsley, I mean, it's more just that I just don't think he can play midfield at this level. I'm at the point where I'm like okay with him not playing midfield. Maybe he can improve, but I just don't see it at this point. You know what I mean? So I would say that those are pretty clear, options because everybody else, once you got the other players in there,
It's
they
tough
just started clicking.
Because Ainsley in the first half, he was more penetrative than Lukonga. Like if you go back, he actually was more penetrative with his passes, but then he was
Yeah.
also, I think, even more wasteful than Lukonga. And so
Yeah.
so then it balances itself out. And I think when you see the last 10, 15 minutes, you can't not get upset. You know what I mean? Like I think we a lot of
Mhm.
times on the timeline and elsewhere, we look at what players may want, and Ainsley's a representation of maybe a maverick player in your Saliba Guendouzi molds that have challenged the manager and whatnot. What really upsets me is when you see a kid who's young right now who just needs a little bit of advice and say, look, mate, you can be the right back for Arsenal. Okay, you can do this. And you can absolutely excel in this position. Or if you want to keep doing midfield, I get it's your career, but it's going to be at the detriment to your career. And if only you are the one that's saying that and everybody around you is saying you're a better right back, then I don't know how much credence you get, and I don't know how much I'm willing to put the olive branch your way and say, yeah, true, go for it. You're allowed to be in midfield. So yeah, it's tough for me on Ainsley
Mhm.
because tons of potential, but yet again, we saw why he's considered a right back and not so much a midfielder, despite doing some good things. It's not that he was awful, but he was
Right.
ineffective.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I agree with you, but my loser is actually going to be,
Oh,
Leno.
Leno. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people that had a lot of pushback on us for our
Mm.
match preview. And what right does Ramsdale have to come into this team? What has Leno done? La 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 la, all these things about how he should keep his spot and Ramsdale should play in cups. That's not why we got him. He's gonna be the number one by the end of this season. He just is. Like that's what we're looking for. And I think when you saw and people will say it's just Norwich, they'll say that, and that's perfectly fine. But his ability to play, I think we've dispelled myths that he's not good with the ball at his feet. That was a lot of it because he was being asked at Sheffield to kick the ball out of the back. Like that's what he was being asked to do. So he doesn't play with his feet. Well, he clearly does, and we were able to draw Norwich in and get some good possession going and build up from the back through his decision making. I like also that he can pass just first time, just one touch passes at speed to the left back, to Tierney, to Saka, so that we can start our attacks. He was almost like a third center back. And when you look at Leno, you can't say that he does those things. Ramsdale was playing like Emi Martinez. Like he really, really was. And that's what we like about him. So, and then he also kept a clean sheet and was off his line and also made sure that we didn't get scored on. So I think the loser today was Leno because when Leno comes back into the team, what we're going to initially look at is do we feel the same about us playing out of the back with him? And I would say I could make a nice little prediction now and say probably not. So my loser for today is actually going to be Leno because, and just the pushback on the idea of Ramsdale starting today,
Hmm.
it was obvious that he was going to start today. It's a perfect game for him to start in at home against one of the lesser teams in the league. So it's not a surprise that the defense looked more
Solid.
organized and more together. I just feel like he's vocal where Leno is not, and we'll definitely see what happens throughout the season. But I don't think that this is just he's going to play in cup games. I think that's pretty obvious from today.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet on Ramsdale because I think I've been very much somebody in his corner. I've really explained kind of, on this channel, on my channel, on our preview was exactly, I think, why. And, I think it played out wonderfully to what we thought would happen in the game. You could just see the defense look calmer. I think part of that is also the technique on show. I will say, I don't want to give it all Ramsdale because, Gabrielle had such a good game as well. So many good blocks, as well, even late on. Um, but yeah, it's what we said, Jess, like early beating of the press allowed us to really open up. We just didn't take advantage of it. We beat the press quite easily. We just didn't really carry on from there. But these are just baby steps, right? And I think I even said, I sent a tweet out, right at the end of the game where sometimes we can look away from process and just look at the outcome right now. And I think the outcome is Ramsdale does better. In terms of process, we can nitpick about little things that Leno does well. We can nitpick about little things that, maybe he needs to improve on. But fundamentally, when you look at that back line right now, that buildup looked way better than anything we've seen in the last 3 games, right? And I don't think that's coincidence. We saw the same thing versus, our cup game as well. And
Mm-hmm.
look, I understand opposition level and quality might be a little bit different, but what isn't different is how calm everyone looked. So I understand opposition matters. I get that. But at the same time, how that back line wasn't worried was not coincidence. So yeah, I think he deserves all the praise because he got a lot of shit. He had to turn off his comments when he came. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just nice that he's proven everyone wrong. And of course, it's always nice when your match preview kind of walks out in the game. So yeah,
I wasn't even shocked that he was in the team. I was like,
yeah.
he's in the team. Like, come on, you guys. So, who's your winner for today?
So like winner, I struggled with because I have a lot. Like I could go in the vein that you went with Leno as a loser. There's another player who no one likes who's got a red card that unfortunately showed why he should start in the pivot. Um, but I don't want to anger. I think I got to be genuine. Look, Thomas Partey. When you look at the game, okay, just factually, the man changed the game. And people are asking me what are the man of the matches. It's got to be him. He came on immediately changed the dynamic of the team. I know it's not something I really, was shocked to see. I keep saying that, wait for the spine, wait for the spine. Well, we saw it for like 20 minutes and they ripped them apart. But this guy is world class. Thomas Partey gets into every team in the world. Period. That kid is amazing. And he goes in there, fires the ball into those zone 14. He's early too, even in build up. I don't know if you saw it. Like he does this 1-2 touch kind of spring to Pepe wide. And you know what? That's what he needs. Pepe needs the extra yard. So if you're going to make use of Pepe and whatnot, you you just have to give him the ball quickly so that he can get an extra yard to maybe do that extra step that he wants to do. And Partey allows that. Partey makes everybody in the team better. And so for me, yeah, it's got to be Partey. I hate to be par for the course, but that boy is
No,
special.
no. I mean, there are some, and I hate to, Thomas Party. I hate to say this, but I feel like we almost don't deserve him. Like, and like
Yeah,
I know we paid for him and all of that, so we do deserve him. But some of the criticism that I've seen of him over the last year that he's been here has been so off the mark. He's had injury issues. But the idea that he's not as good as what we thought he was going to be, that he's not transformative, the guy can run a midfield by himself. When he came in, he was running the midfield by himself.
yeah,
By himself.
yeah,
And he made it look easy. He's one of
yeah.
the only people on the pitch that really looked like this was just a level below. He was not even in full gear. The
No,
guy is sleepwalking through the Norwich game, helping us win. Like Thomas Party, when we got him, tears in my eyes because I was like, I cannot believe we have this world class midfielder in our team. And what he showed today is that he's not just some guy that's going to be breaking up play and kicking it to the next guy. He can run a midfield by himself. He doesn't need anybody else. It's just we don't have the players around him to facilitate, I think, getting the best out of him. Like, I just don't think we're quite there yet.
and
But
we've talked about that too, Jess, like
yeah,
on the channel, right? Like we saw a chart earlier in the week that showed who does he stylistically compare to. I've been screaming on the
Tiago,
channel,
yeah,
Tiago, and it's like you see it today. The man runs midfields. Can we just get him as police dog? Just get him as Bazuma so that he can do the work that we all know he can because he's transformative. He really is. Like he changes this team. He changes the dynamic. It's not even it's just black and white. It's chalk and cheese, whatever analogy you want to chuck in there, whatever superlative. The guy is just world class.
exactly. Like, he's definitely up there. And you can always tell when you have a really good player on your team because rival fans will try very hard to
Yeah,
make you think that they're not good. They want him to be bad and injured because they know he's that guy. Like he's that guy. And
Yeah,
we're lucky to have him. So Thomas Partey, I definitely agree with that 110%. That guy is freaking mustard. Like he's so good. And Lakanga is probably like they talk about, okay, well, Greenwood is going to be learning under Cavani and Ronaldo, and I understand that this is a completely different level, but Lakanga learning under Thomas Partey is going to
huge.
help him massively. So having those players that you can learn from is pivotal, for the development of these young players. But my winner is actually going to be the back five. The back five. Most of everybody was kind of talking about the back four. It's the back five.
Hmm.
Remember Yo-Yo, who's usually in the comments. I don't know if Yo-Yo's here right now. I think I saw you in there. Said that we won't be seeing that back five anytime soon. Well, we saw it right away, and it's because this is the back five that we need to kind of move forward. I know it's young, and I know it's inexperienced, but it's the back five that we need. It has the balance and the continuity that we really need in order to move forward. And I do think that they're going to make mistakes. I think that they're going to look shabby every once in a while. But when you saw Tomiyasu there and his quality on the ball, like you can tell what we're going for. And if Tierney can get back into form, which I do feel like he'll go onto the radar as somebody that he didn't have a great game and he hasn't looked good this season, but he needs to come back into form. That back five is in the next couple of years could be really, really good. You know, we'll probably, like we said, maybe end up getting like a more progressive right back at some point. But I feel completely confident in Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel, Ramsdale, and Tierney moving forward. They were actually the highlight for me of this game because I never felt afraid of us getting scored on. I really
Yeah.
never did. I was more concerned about us not scoring. I never thought for a second that we would give up a goal because we just looked so assured. We were in our right positions. When White got beat, Gabriel was right there behind him. When White was trying to win the ball, Tomiyasu was right there making sure that he had somebody there. Tierney, he didn't look like he was out in no man's land. That back five could be really, really good if we keep it together and it stays fit.
And I think people maybe got to see like when we broke down Tomiyasu, I tried to tell people he wouldn't be inverted all the time. He will overlap. And in fact, we saw even in this game, he's going and he almost has a volley and gets a chance to score. This kid has the pace to overlap. He absolutely can. So if people were thinking he was going to be an inverted right back, no, that's not what we're getting with this kid. We're getting a very versatile player. Jesse, what I'm just happy about is look, Ben White, as much as I don't really want to say it, he's a marquee signing in very much a definition of the word, right? 50 million pounds. What do we get to supplement that signing? Tomiyasu, who is excellent in the air where Ben White is weak in the air. We are making moves to make our star players or our wanting to be star players function. That's something I haven't seen from this management in decades. This is just what I'm happy about. I guess we fixed the defense. We maybe need that overlapping right back that you say, but these moves make complements to our defensive unit. Gabriel struggles to dictate progression. He has a great long pass, but struggles short and medium term. What does Ben White do? He's just a dictator. He had 3 key passes today. He was excellent on the ball. He was amazing. And then you've got Tomiyasu, who I think won 7 out of his 8 aerial duels. Just complementing the back four. It's why we were so excited. At least me, I was very excited about the Tomiyasu signing. I think I boldly said it's probably going to be our best signing, price to quality wise, in the team. And I think you're spot on. Back five. I think I went a little bit popular vote with Partey, but this was awesome. This is what we were seeing, right? The last 3 games, 9 goals conceded. We saw uncharacteristic holes in the center. I don't know about you, but like you, I was very calm about the whole idea of getting scored on. I just didn't see it. And yeah, that's a testament to maybe our recruitment and, a testament to the plan, which can be questioned at times. But I think that back five, you can't question the idea of it, at least.
I thought they played really well together. And
Yeah.
this is the first time that they have played together. And I even saw, I don't know if you guys saw the passes that came like from Tomiyasu from the right hand side to the left, Ben White into the pocket and behind for Pepe. Like these passes, the things that we're able to do from a technical standpoint we haven't been able to do because we just haven't had the players to do it. And I do agree that when some injuries maybe come along, we'll see a little bit of, but this is the back line that we're really going for. And when we add other players of quality into that back line, then we'll have a defensive group that works together, and I couldn't be happier with that. I love like I'm a defensive person. Like I like knowing that
Same.
that it's together and it makes sense and there's balance, and I definitely think that's that. So I put the link. It's a pinned comment for you guys, so you guys can go and click on that. We'll take some calls, chat to you guys, ask you guys could tell us your winners, your losers, what you learned today, rant, whatever you want to do. That's perfectly fine as long as you're nice and respectful. Matt G asks, help me out, folks. What does you mean? Loads of Manu fans are saying it on Twitter. I see it and I just ignore it. Do you know what it means?
Ronaldo does it when he scores.
What does he do?
he
He
just
says
goes,
that?
yeah, like he like screams Sue, like, and he like it's in his goal celebration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he scored today too, like a
I
rebound
think
off a
he
really
scored.
poor carry.
I think he had two.
Yeah, did he have two?
I think so.
Yeah,
But who cares about that? He's
yeah,
supposed to be able to score 2 goals against Newcastle. Let's be real.
yeah.
Um, Nashville Gunner says, I could care less about defense, high scoring, high press. We did have a high press today that worked at some points. What did you think about our press today?
It was good. Like it tailed off at the 30th minute, though. We just can't sustain it, and that's just because of the players on the pitch. And again, if you just look at who started, we don't have the players to really do that press. To be honest with you, um, but yeah, I think Odegaard was a big reason for it, though. Odegaard, who I think struggled in the final action of the play, had a really good pressing game. It was all over the pitch, and so that was really good. I just think with more players like ESR, Partey, those are huge towards the press. Even Granite presses. So if you do want to press, I think you're going to see a little bit more of that press lasting, not just 20, 30 minutes. But it was good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you guys, I know it's like, how do you not know that that's Ronaldo's thingy, thingy, thingy? I'm not a Ronaldo stan, to be honest, and I don't really. And I know this is going to sound really, like, probably rude, but he's a great player, one of the best that ever played. I but I don't really follow him around or really give a shit. Like if I'm really gonna just be honest, like I'm not one of those that's like, you have to love Messi and Ronaldo, great players, but I don't follow them like that. I'm an Arsenal fan and I do what I want. So sorry. But yeah, let's bring in Tawanda. I don't care. So let's bring in Tawanda here. Tawanda, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right. I thought today's performance was decent. I don't think offensively we were great, but defensively we were just fantastic. As I said, Tamiyasu was the signing I was most excited about, to be honest. And what he did for that right back role was fantastic. Everything I expected him to do. He covered Ben White well. Gabriel also was very important as well. I thought his contribution as well was quite good, and especially in those hiccupy moments with Timo Pukki. But yeah, I was pleased defensively. I thought Ainsley today was a bit off today, and to be honest, I see him as a right back. I don't see him as someone who should be playing in midfield at this present time. Hopefully he develops over time. I wish him well in that regard. But right now, he's a right back.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's better at right back. I would love for him to have more chances at midfield, maybe, but I'm almost like whatever at this point. But I do want to ask you a question about how do you think, that there's an elephant in the room here, and that's Mikel Arteta. Before we scored the goal, it was kind of like, can he coach offensive or attacking football? What is this? Did he get the lineup right? Do you think that 1-0 versus Norwich is good enough for him to just kind of move on to the next game? Do you think there should be more pressure on him? What do you think about his role at the moment?
Oh, yeah, definitely there's pressure still. Because Mikel, everyone says, look, Mikel is a defensive coach. He is a defensive coach. There's no question about it. He offers a lot of defensive solidity, and like although we are pressing, but we're not a team that will score 5 goals. I don't see us doing that with Mikel. I think that's a good thing in a sense because whoever comes after him will probably utilize the defenders better and use the midfielders better because we do have midfielders who can progress the ball. We have Partey, we have Lokonga, we have enough. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like we looked a bit jaded in midfield without Xhaka. Let's be real. Like without Xhaka, we actually need Xhaka. Love him or hate him, we need Xhaka. But for me, Mikel is not an attacking coach. He's a very defensive coach. Um, and it's in our history. We have where those they were chanting 1-0 to the Arsenal. Because that's in our history. We were known for being a great defense before Wenger came through. So if Mikel's going to go with this defensive football, then for sure I'm okay with it, so long as we can keep it consistent.
I think my tough thing and my only pushback to fans that are saying a defensive coach, when you look at this game, 2.7 xG to 0.54, 30 shots, mostly came when Partey comes in. When you have your first choice starters come in, we dominate games. We do put up numbers that are above 2.5 xG on a consistent basis. And so at the same token, while sure he does have a greater propensity to coach the defense, it's not like 30 shots. I don't know if people understand, but 30 shots, if you look at it, is immense. Like that's very abnormal. It's an
It's a
excellent
lot. It is
offensive performance. So it's tough for me to say that we were poor offensively when you do over 2.5 xG, despite not having your starting midfield at the 60th minute, really, plus 30 shots. So, but I hear you. I know what you mean. He is a better defensive coach,
and he's mostly focused on it from the beginning. One of his big, I think you could say one of the cornerstones of Mikel Arteta is defensive solidity. Yeah. Like that is definitely something that he coaches for. But Twanda, thank you so much for coming on and having your say.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Talk to you next time. Bye. Yeah, for sure. I think it's more just when he doesn't have key figures in the team, we struggle ultimately. We start to just hit it to Tierney and let him cross it in. And you need Emile Smith-Rowe and Saka between the lines. And I think that was pretty obvious. But I'm going to bring Shravan in. Shravan, yes. Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. What do you want to say?
Are we still doing the winners, losers sort of section?
Yeah, you can give us your winner and loser. Yeah.
Okay. So I think one thing that I sort of agree with is Ramsdale, but that was mentioned quite a lot. But I'd just like to add that I think Kieran Tierney was a big winner today. I just felt that we know that he's good at going for an attacking, but it felt like the last few games because the defense was not so good. That sort of hampered his ability to go forward with somebody like a Gabriel, and hopefully in the future if Thomas Partey and maybe Xhaka, whoever plays in midfield pivot, I think we can sort of see with the back five as part of the back five, but if you include Aaron Ramsdale plus the other three of Tomiyasu, Gabriel, and Ben White, I think we can see the sort of the older version, or maybe even hopefully the much better version of Kieran Tierney, because the last few games, that was a concern, right? So he was sort of in the loser scenario. I mean, for no fault of his, because just pretty much everybody that he was playing with were bang average. So I think that was something that I observed, that he was a big winner. Pepe has to be a loser. I'm sorry. I have to agree with George. I think, he has those moments where he sort of finds himself in this weird goal scoring sort of situations, but I just don't think that for the way that we want to play and we want to create a lot of chances, I don't think Pepe is something that we can stick with. I think Saka has to play there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll play Odegaard and ESR on either side. Um, of course, then the question will come then, like Obama becomes the only sort of goal threat. We
Mm-hmm.
saw how ESR and even Saka, if you remember, I don't remember at what time, even Saka had some good chances where
Yeah,
I thought he
yeah,
could have pulled the trigger a bit, quicker. I think
yeah.
maybe he would have gotten a couple of goals. So I understand that leaving out Pepe uh, sort of manifests a very valid argument that we might sort of miss a goal threat, but I think yeah, just coach. I guess it's quite obvious what we'll see in the training videos next week. Just
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, just
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think we pretty much agree, like with everything that you said. But Sharvan, thank you so much for coming on. Really
sure.
appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a real concern. When I think about it, because kind of how I was. You can tell me if you think this is right or wrong, but essentially we have four positions. Up top. We
Mm.
have three in behind the striker, and right now we have five players. And I think it's hard to find the right combination of them because Aubameyang is your number one goal scorer. That's the guy that you want. And then if you put ESR and Saka there with Odegaard, it feels like it lacks goals or it lacks another finisher. I don't know if you can definitively say that Pepe is that guy, but he seems like the guy that would be more of a finisher. But when you have Aubameyang and Pepe, you lack that another number 10, and you can't play Odegaard in a pivot, so you can't push him back. So we have five players. The combination is hard to get, but you only have four positions.
Well, I've had a couple rules, and I don't know if you agree with all of them. I've said Pepe and Oba you can't have in the same front line. I do this because they're both a lot more high volume chances. It's not that they're poor finishers. It's just they require high volume chances. And when you do that, we don't have a midfield or defense that can sustain that. So immediately, I don't have them both in the same front line. If you're going to have Oba up top, you must have the three tens behind him. I've said this for a while. This is kind of the balance that we need where Saka can be an off the ball runner. And, he's one of those cheat code players that when you have him in the lineup, he's not just a creative, he's not just a runner, he's both. And so he's a malleable person. But you do, when you have Oba, make sure you create for him, have the three behind. If you're going to do a Laka or a Balogun, chuck in Martinelli and, maybe a Pepe as your wing forwards. Those are your kind of rules. And then broadly, you have to have two creatives and two runners in your front line. Those are my rules for the front line. And I think it's very clear. So it depends on whoever your striker is. That's really what I expect. And if Laka does play or a Balogun, ESR has to be the one in the middle, not Odegaard. And you have to surround them with wing forwards. I think that's pretty clear for me, at least. And that's what I'm hoping Mikel does. So if I see him not do that, I'm going to critique it because
Yeah.
that's the balance I see in the front. I don't know about you, if you agree with some of those rules, but I think it's just I've seen enough that I think those are the combinations that work best.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those. I just think it's so difficult to find the balance, but I tend to agree, with that. I'm gonna bring Sam on. Let's see. Hey
How are
Sam,
you?
how are you? I'm good. How are you?
Good, Jess. How are you?
I can't complain. What you want to have your say? Winner, loser? You just want to chat? You have a question?
Yeah, no,
What's
I was
going
just gonna
on?
say, I'm definitely I've been watching your videos for a couple months now, and you and George are talking, and it's two very different opinions, and George is more positive, and while I respect that, I kind of disagree with a lot of things he says, but whatever. It's today just goes to show that you know our level is more or less the bottom half of the table, and just like I don't know. I think our goal difference is still -8. So today doesn't really change anything. It's not like with a loss next week or a draw and the results of other teams and other matches, we could still find ourselves in the bottom three again next week. So I know all of us Arsenal fans tend to have short-term memory loss after a win, and I mean we may as well enjoy it because who knows how many of those we're going to get this season. So I don't know. I just think. What did you guys think about Pepe today? I didn't think he fucking did shit today to deserve to start next week. But
I mean, I think Pepe was poor, but as we kind of talked about, he's not his role before ESR came on wasn't the right role for him. He has to just be a finisher. When you ask him to be a part of build up, when you ask him to be a playmaker, he's just that's not really his cup
first
of
touch usually
tea.
lets him down, right?
Yeah, he needs to be running in behind and just finishing off moves. But kind of what I want to ask you is I understand that, it's an overwhelming negative feeling amongst the fan base. And I don't think it's necessarily short term memory loss, but I also think maybe on the other side, there's maybe some memory loss in terms of the circumstances that led us to have those bad results. I mean, do you not give the team and maybe even Mikel some grace based on the fact that we had so many of our key players
Absences and
missing?
players and
Yeah. Or do you think it's just he's it's just too big of a situation for him? I know we didn't play amazing today. We definitely didn't. But we did win the game. Do you not think that there's maybe just some momentum that we need to gain now having
yeah,
Tomiyasu, White,
obviously. Yeah.
Gabrielle, Party, all of those
Yeah.
players?
Yeah, I think this if this back line is what's gonna, be the cemented back four, I think Tomiyasu looked like he can really cement himself as a right back. And then I like sometimes how they play with like White and Gabrielle's the two center defenders, and then like sometimes you'd see Tobiatsu a little bit more central, or I don't know. I think he's a great signing, and but yeah, going back to your question though, just like the long and the short of it, I think like this job is way too big for any manager. It's the whole project of taking Arsenal, a team with such stature and such class and historic whatever, blah blah blah, bringing it back up to the level where it should be is a daunting task for most people. And so I just think like obviously we stick with Mikel because we can't really attract anyone else. I don't think that's just my opinion. But I mean, I don't really look. I mean, just like yeah, I do give him there's some leeway and some insurance because like he didn't have the crop of players he wanted to pick from because of injury, like you said, Jess. But yeah, I don't like Mikel. This win doesn't really change my opinion. There's still like 34 games left in the season, so.
No, I don't think I don't think it's changed a lot of people's opinions. Like, I still feel like we need to see more, but
Yeah,
he
100%.
ultimately didn't lose this game. So I 100% get what you're feeling. I do think some people are living in the moment because let's be real, being in 20th and no goals, no wins, that was tough for 2 weeks. So I think some people are just excited about winning a game, but I definitely don't think it's taken a U-turn with the fan base in terms of people thinking Mikel is the guy. But thank you so much for coming on, Sam. I really appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Bye. Let's bring on Nashville Gooner. Nashville, hey.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hey, so I don't know. I was okay with the game. I think I've called in before and told you I'm not judging this season by wins and losses. It's a development project, and we could tell there's a lot of development that needs to be done. I think when we were talking about winners and losers, Jacques is the big winner. He walks right into the team after his red card. Lukonga's raw. He's going to be a good player, but he's not where he needs to be right now. Ainsley's not a midfielder, so I think El Neni jumps ahead of him in the pecking order. He's back, which is so. I just said two things that's going to really piss off chat, but El Neni and Jacques are midfielders for the season. That's who, unless we buy somebody in January, that's who you're watching. So I don't know. Pepe, I've never been a huge fan of. I want somebody better to build up. Ramsdale, I really like. I'm not going to say I knew a ton about him before we signed him, and I trusted George. Said he watched a lot of him, and he said he was good with his feet, and he looks like he is. So I'd keep rocking with him for the rest of until he proves otherwise. Tomiyasu, I didn't know anything about before we signed him. He looks like he'll be pretty good. I am like a celebrity. Thanks, Matt.
But it's ultimately like there's a level of development that needs to happen with these players because a lot of them are not the finished article, which it's fun because like we know it on paper, but when we see it, we're like, yeah, there needs some. Yeah, they definitely need some work for sure.
And I don't know if Arteta is going to be the guy who's going to get those 3 years to see it through. But we're 3 years away with this project. That's where we're going. We're not anywhere near where we're going to be, and we're probably not going to be anywhere near where we want to be next year. You know, I don't see us challenging for top 3 or top 4 for a couple of years until Saka and ESR are legitimate goal scoring threats as going forward as well, and that's going to take time. I mean, our best players are 19 years old, 20 years old.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, that's definitely fair, 100%. I think when you wrap your head around the fact that this is a long-term project, you start to look at things a little bit differently and not take things so like there's a lot of people that feel like, well, what we did over the summer is not going to get us top 4. Well, the idea wasn't to get us to top 4. It was to build a foundation and a sustainable way of building a team and then letting it grow over the next couple of years. So I definitely agree with that 100%. But Nashville, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, no, go ahead. American fan. We look at it as American fans who are used to rebuilds. And, you know, we're not the ones we're not paying high ticket prices to watch this team develop over 3 years, which is, I think it's a luxury when, you know, our biggest complaint is Peacock not having the first 10 minutes of the game. I'm not paying the prices to get into the stadium to watch a full rebuild. And that's where, you know, we have, you know, we as American fans or foreign fans we can say, I'm happy with watching a rebuild. I like watching young players play. If I was living in North London and, you know, if I had season tickets and I was paying the highest season ticket prices in the league, I wouldn't be as calm as I am, you know, sitting in Nashville. So I think, you know, we have to take things with a grain of salt. We can say, fine, we'll wait for a rebuild. It's going to be great. You know, it's fun watching young kids play hard. We're not in North London. So I think there's a big difference between us saying it from the cheap seats. I think we just need to acknowledge that when we're talking, you know, talking Arsenal.
Yeah, for sure. I can't disagree with that. Thank you so much for coming on, Nashville. We really appreciate it. We'll see you in the chat.
Great show. See ya.
Bye. All right. So I'm ready to give my man of the match. It's not that big of a surprise. My man of the match is Aubameyang.
Oh, really?
I just liked his performance. All I've ever asked was that at the end of the day, like, even if things aren't going the way that he probably wants them to go, just run hard, run your ass off, you know, sweat, you know, and I think he earned that goal because of his hard work. That wasn't necessarily like an Aubameyang masterclass classic goal. It was one that he was in the right place at the right time because he was switched on, you know, and he was just right there for it. And, yeah, he worked his socks off, and for me, he's the man of the match, 100%. Seeing that he switched on makes me feel a lot more comfortable, you know, at the moment.
I think he did a lot of the Lacazette things too, though. Like, I really don't think people, like, when you look, we all guide narrative, to be fair. Like, it's not just, like, I do it as well. Like, I'm sure, you know, when I look at Pepe, when I look at other players, everyone has their own subjective narrative that they like to play, right? But I think today, especially, I saw a lot more combination plays. And of course, that helps when you've got ESR close to you. He encourages that as like a player. But I saw a lot of times he was trying to get Saka into play, even with Odegaard in the first half, and he was dropping deep, you know, offering an option. He also won a lot more headers today. Of course, the center backs there, you can bully a little bit more, but he did those things. So, yeah, I could actually see where you're going. I was surprised, to be fair. But, yeah, no, he did a lot of really good things for the team today, for sure.
Yeah, and that's my thing. It's even if I'm critical of somebody, if I see them do something good, I'm more than happy. Like, Aubameyang's not my favorite. Everybody knows that. But ultimately, he's our best goal scorer. And we need him keyed in. We need him and Thomas Partey ready to fight because these young players need it. But you guys, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Consider becoming a member. We're going to actually be able to do a Tactical Tuesday where we get to look at the game and analyze moments. We'll talk about the defense. I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation talking about build-up with Ramsdale. We'll probably look at him versus Leno and kind of do a little bit of comparison there. We'll talk about the positioning of Lakanga, how he can probably improve. That'll be an interesting conversation as well. And so we'll actually be doing that on Tuesday. So consider becoming a member. Join us, more content. But on Monday, post-match show, we'll be going into detail more about the game after we've rewatched it and all of that. And we'll talk about some other questions that we have coming off of the back of this game. But ultimately, 3 points, a goal. Let's move on to the next one. Thank you guys so much for joining us for our instant match reaction. There's 160 of you guys watching on all platforms, which is amazing, as I know so many other people are doing instant reactions. So thank you so much for being here. Oh, George's man of the match is Thomas Partey. I forgot to ask him. But did you want to add another nugget to that?
I think I waxed eulogy about him throughout the stream. I just think in total, the game changed with him. And so for me, I just have to give it to him because at least for us, our play changed for him. Our chances created upped with him. He's just a stellar bomb. So for me, Thomas Partey was my man of the match. Yeah. Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. Our 2 world-class players are the ones that, are men of the matches or men of the match. So, you guys. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, y'all.